for updated legislative reps and bills to oppose. Which reps and which bills to oppose. My team is actively tracking the bills. The bills have not been sent to committee yet. Committees actually start next week. They need to exit committee before and be referred to the House for us to vote on. So we're actively engaged in the conversations on the House floor every day in session. I'm actually tracking who is supporting these bills and who is against these bills. And so I'll relay that information over to Emerge and such, and they'll relay it back through the emails if you've signed up to keep you updated and apprised of everything that's going on. There are 2 representatives I will ask you all to call, whether you live in their district or not live in their district. Rep. Hornberger, which Fairuz identified earlier, her number is 517-373-8931. Again, that's 517-373-8931. She is the sponsor of HB 4105, the Anti-Sanctuary City and State Bill. So call her up and tell her that you oppose these bills strongly. Even if you don't live in her district, tell her you live in her district. It's okay. It'll come back to me, I don't mind that. Tell her you vote and you live in her district and you strongly oppose these bills. The next representative is Representative Lee Chatfield. Representative Chatfield, Chatfield. He is the Speaker Pro Tem. And I've already told him we're gonna raise hell because he's already told me they're not taking up our resolution. So his number is 517-373-2629. So call him twice. Because I've already told him it's happening. And he is the one who actually is the chair of the committee that is supposed to review these resolutions. Yeah. So unless he decides that he wants to review them, they will never be taken up for a vote.
What's your resolution number?
Resolution number will be given to us on Tuesday. So I'll pass that along to Emerge, and hopefully that information will come out. But if you call them and tell them you support the pro-immigration resolution, is what we called it. We urge humane, responsible immigration policy. That was the title. I don't know how you can be opposed to that. They'll know what you're talking about, I promise. And that is all. Thank you all so much. After until next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Abdullah. Just to raise the point about what Abdullah's challenges are in Lansing and what Fairuz mentioned, 2020 is the next year where the U.S. Census is going to be taken. And so whoever is going to be in the majority in Lansing will then get to carve up the congressional districts. See how important it is to be involved from this point moving forward. I'm sorry, which is voted on 2018. That's right.
We'll have state and Senate races.
That's right. First of all, let me just take a question that came over from Manib that he didn't get to, but I think it's important. Without getting into the naturalization process, what should people do who are fearful that if they do become U.S. citizens that they might have to renounce their original citizenship or passports? That's actually not as much of an issue for the United States as it is for the country of which you already belong. So please check what are the rules when it comes to the country from which you are naturalizing. For example, if you are coming from the United Kingdom, a lot of people think that they're going to have to give up the Queen. You do not have to give up the Queen. You can keep both passports. Unfortunately, though, it's going to not be an EU passport for much longer, but you can go ahead and still rule Britannia if you want. On the issue of also what Munib was saying, please, if you are at the border, do not use it as an opportunity to give that mic drop moment or a meme. Just be straight. If they ask you, what are your views on terrorism, do not say, the only bomb I drop is the F-bomb. Trust me on that one. It goes off like a Led Zeppelin. Now, one of the questions is, what's causing all this hatred? So there's really 4 things that are going on. The bad news is these are going to be around for a while. The good news is we're not around. The worst news is that they're actually global phenomena. Nativism, hyper-nationalism, a rejection of globalization, and an almost outright panic that this country within about a generation is going to become a majority-minority country. This is really gearing and driving a lot of this. I felt and I dreaded, because of research that I do either on my own or through the Institute for Social Policy and Understanding, ISPU, that this was going to happen. I never thought it was going to happen this quickly and that it was going to be manifested in one person. So these are things that you have to consider as we're going to the mattresses, to use a Godfather analogy. And you see this happening worldwide. There's a reason why our president is now chummy with so many of the same people around the world. In India, Prime Minister Modi. In Turkey, Recep Tayyip Erdogan. In Russia, Vladimir Putin. They all have the same pathology. So keep that in mind as you are trying to filter the news, because that was another question, that with all of this overwhelming amount of news, how do you maintain the energy? I would say eat right, sleep right, and get some exercise. And I'm not being glib. You need the stamina. This is a marathon and not a sprint. And I want to make a shout out to Calvin Moore. Calvin, I want you to stand up. I know I'm putting you on the spot, but you did for us yesterday. Calvin invited, among others, Hassan and me to be participants of his podcast yesterday, bringing together disparate voices to talk about difficult issues. So thank you for the service that you provide. I also was able to get a selfie with a picture frame of Billy D. Williams. I'm so happy about that, as Lando Calrissian of all things. Now, a couple of other questions. One question is asking about terminology. That the first step someone recommends is to dissociate terrorism with Islam. Terminology and semantics makes a big deal, and you see, at least on a positive note, what happened out of a national tragedy. 6 people were killed by a terrorist in Quebec City, and fortunately it was the Canadians who referred to it as a terrorist act, including their Prime Minister Justin Bieber. Sorry, Trudeau. Wow, a Freudian slip there. Is it too late for me to say I'm sorry? And that also betrayed the age of the room of most of you. The fact that Trudeau's office, in fact, contacted Fox News to change the narrative is also critical. So there are allies even on the other side of the border. I wouldn't dwell so much on the semantics thing, because that is going to take a very long time, but small and baby steps to go ahead and do that. The next one is somewhat related, that it seems as though there's something going on and circulating in the alt-right that has now infiltrated the White House, of people saying that Islam is not a religion, but in fact is a political ideology. And we saw this attempted to be litigated in the Murfreesboro, Tennessee case regarding the mosque there. And fortunately, the judge took judicial notice and said, "What, are you crazy?" I don't see a danger when it comes to this of having any kind of momentum. If it does, then there's the First Amendment, which will go ahead and protect it, because globally, Islam is recognized as a 1,400-year-old, 1.6 billion follower adherents. And if Pastafarians can be recognized as a legitimate religion, then I'm sure so can Islam. And if not, then what they will do is relegate Muslims into being considered a racial category, and for that we have the 14th Amendment, because they will be considered a suspect class, and race is given the highest level strict scrutiny protection. When it comes to the idea of, do the majority of Americans support the Muslim ban, it depends on two things: who's asking the question and how the question is being framed. The Rasmussen poll, which tends to skew to the right, is apparently suggesting that a majority of Americans are, but Rasmussen tends to only really poll Republicans anyway. And let's, of course, be intellectually honest, 63 million people did vote for this guy. I think the better question would be, how do they feel about the unequal treatment of U.S. citizens, irrespective of their national origin or their race, religion, or ethnicity? Can this start a World War III? Well, that would mean, I'm assuming, would this ban start World War III? I don't think that the ban would start World War III, but I think Bannon will start World War III. The thing is that there's a lot of things that are being said, and as Stephanie so aptly put, that are being diverted and distracted from our attention. Statements that are being made by Steve Bannon about China, I think is going to be the much bigger deal. And for those of you who can make it or would like to make it tomorrow at the Birmingham Temple just down the road, I'll be speaking from 7 to 9 about the Middle East. And when Jeff Fallick asked me, why don't you just speak about anything? I'm like, what am I going to speak about? And this was like 2 months ago. Well, thank you at least for what happened in the last 12 days, because I don't think there's ever going to be a shortage of what I'm going to say. My final points before I hand it over to Sharif, if there's one thing that we can do together that perhaps can help change this, because I just read about this on my phone, is contact the FDA and try to ban Propecia. Our president apparently is addicted to it, and it causes impotence and mental illness. Thank you.
Classic.